Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. We're doing another author taste test and I'm really excited about this one. I'm going to be reading two books by Rachel Howzell Hall. Not sure how to say her middle name, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to these. They are both thrillers or suspense, and I'm really interested in both. They both sound like they're going to be incredible. The first one is They All Fall Down, which came out in 2019, and the little tagline is, "It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime." Sounds amazing just from that alone, because yeah, I don't want to read more of the synopsis. So once I actually get into the novel, I will fill you in on a brief synopsis of my own. And the next one is And Now She's Gone. And I love this cover so much. Sorry these are so shiny. I picked up both of these from the library because I want to see if I actually like this author. And if I do, I want copies of her books. And she does have more books on her backlist, so I can go and get those as well. This one says, Isabel Lincoln is gone, but is she missing? Dun dun dun. So yeah, so I'm going to be reading both of these and letting you know my thoughts. This is a Black author, so I'm also very excited about that, because when I was looking at my reading goals, how I've been doing so far for January, February, and March, I did notice a huge gap in my reading, and that's reading marginalized authors. So trying to get some more marginalized voices, and I want to start with this taste test. So let's get started. Alright, I wanted to film here because it's the best light, but it's raining outside right now, and that means it's really gray and gloomy, so I'm kind of coming off bluish. Also, Daniel's about to interrupt me. Alright, as I was saying, it is nice and rainy out there. But I want to do this quick update rather than like checking in tomorrow morning, because maybe tomorrow morning I will have more thoughts. But I did start reading They All Fall Down. I made it to page 56. I kind of stopped in the middle of a chapter because earlier when I was reading, my husband interrupted me, as he likes to do. Anyway, so the basic synopsis that I have of the story so far is that our main character won a chance to compete on a reality show, or in a reality show. She receives the email, and it's like her and 6 or 7 other contestants, and they're going to Mexico, and so she's on the way there. But previous to that, I think she's either separated or divorced from her husband, and there's kind of some animosity there. Her daughter and her, I think the last message her daughter sent you was, "I hate you," but that's kind of been repaired, and she also takes Valium just to kind of like numb everything. So she gets the surprise invitation, and the main character's name is Miriam. But there are lots of characters being introduced in those 50 pages, because not only do we have like the main characters and kind of like her husband and the guy and the lady that he's with now and her daughter and her friends, but all of the other contestants and some of the people that are going to be working on this reality show, things like that. So I don't really have like a big super good grasp on the story, but I did find it quite interesting. On page 24, she was talking about being a contestant on a reality show where people are going to be watching on television and stuff like that. And when I read this quote, it reminded me a lot of what I have heard Black contestants say on reality shows like Survivor and things like that, how they feel that I have this opportunity to show kind of like, I don't know, let me read the quote. Let's see if I can find it. I was now Black America's representative, hardworking and stylish, preserving against all odds, a believer in fairness and faith and directness. You can win combined with lift every voice meets power to the people. So I feel like marginalized voices, marginalized people do have like that extra sense of responsibility when they have opportunities like that. So not only are they competing in this show for like $1 million or whatever like that, but they have this like extra burden as well. And like I said, not only did I read it in the book, but I have heard actual people say that in reality shows, like when they're doing interviews or whatever like that. So that's a big burden to carry, but it's realistic. And yeah, I am enjoying it so far. The writing is easy. I'm not focusing like too much on the characters and too much on their like characteristics and stuff like that. I'm just gonna, once I get to the island, I'm gonna get the lay of the land and then I'm gonna go from there. All right, I am reading and enjoying it, getting to know the characters a little bit more. And I just got to the first twist. It happened page like 64, 65. And obviously I didn't know it was coming, but the characters in the book didn't know it was coming either. So this changes things a bit about the trip and the purpose of the trip and things like that. I don't want to say exactly, you know, what it is or any more than that, but it does change the nature of the reality show. Things are not what they seem. I am in my PJs and I wanted to give you an update. I'm about to do a Netflix and chill with my patrons. We're gonna start watching All of Us Are Dead. It's a Korean drama about zombies and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I wanted to update you on They All Fall Down. As you could probably guess from my brief check-ins earlier, it's kind of a retelling, or not kind of, it is a retelling of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And it's funny, I wonder how many of those retellings I've actually read without reading And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Okay, so in this one, it's Miriam and 5 other people that are summoned to this island under false pretenses. Let me read you what Goodreads says because I think it, you know, sums it up very well. Let's see. And this does not have the best ratings. 2.9 with only 3,000 ratings. So not a lot of people are reading this book. Not sure why. All right, the synopsis says, it was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. Delighted by the surprise invitation, Miriam Macy sails off to a luxurious private island off the coast of Mexico with 6 strangers, an ex-cop, a chef, a financial advisor, a nurse, a lawyer, a young widow. Surrounded by miles of open water and the glorious green sea of Cortez, Miriam is shocked to discover that she and the rest of her companions have been brought to the remote island under false pretenses, and all 7 strangers harbor a secret. Dangers lurk in the lush forest and in the halls and bedrooms of the lonely mansion. Sporadic cell phone coverage and miles of ocean keeps the group trapped in paradise, and strange accidents keep them suspicious of one another as one by one they all fall down. So that is the synopsis on Goodreads, and I think that's a very accurate representation of like what's going on, and I'm just waiting for it to get interesting, quite honestly. I made it about 50%. Technically on Goodreads this is 49%, but I am on chapter 16, page 157, and the first casualty has occurred, and it was quite dramatic, if I do say so myself. Very, very interesting. There is a little bit of mixed media in here. At the beginning, there are a few emails like this one, and then I just read this article right here. So there is a little bit of mixed media if that's something that you like. Good morning. I need coffee. I am so tired this morning. I was having the weirdest dreams. I was telling my husband about them. I had a dream that this baby owl landed on my head and wouldn't come off. And I was like pulling, and I would get him off. And then like he had these like weird little teeth, and I was scared he was gonna bite me, but he kept going back and I didn't want him there. And I was also having a dream that like this little fridge broke and there was like ice in there and it was melting everywhere because the door was off. And who knows? All I know is it was weird. Now I'm making coffee and I need to divide up all of my supplements now. Alright friends, it's time for a reading update. I am less than 100 pages from the end of They All Fall Down. And overall, I would say this is pretty average, but I'm probably going to end up rating it like pretty low because it's just so drawn out. You know, it's the classic and then there were none storyline where a group of people go to a location under false pretenses and then they start getting picked off one by one. How the deaths happen is usually different. The characters involved and why they're sent there and all of that is usually different. But it's just slow and it's just boring. It's all told from Miriam's perspective, like she is the main character. And I think she is an interesting main character. But I feel like in these stories, they would really benefit from multiple POVs. Like I said earlier, I have never read the original, Agatha Christie, and Then There Were None. I think at this point, I just need to bite the bullet and read the original. So I'm gonna see if I can check that out from my library sometime soon. But it's just kind of boring. The writing is good. And I like the author's subtle themes of Black culture and what it's like to be Black in America. I did read that one quote earlier about being in like a reality show situation. And she wasn't going to be the only Black person on this reality show, but it turned out not to be a reality show anyway. But there was this other quote, I guess one of the people that died was Black as well. He was a big man, an angry man who now stood over a naked, unmoving Black man. 1717, 1817, 1917. Today, this was a timeless American image. And that is just so freaking sad. Like, does that not just break your heart? It breaks mine. All right, friends, I finished the book and I will share my full thoughts, but I was just making a little list here about all of the And Then There Were None retellings that I have read. And I definitely think I just need to go to like the classic. But the first one that I ever read was a YA retelling, and it's called 10 by Gretchen McNeil. So I read that one. I read One by One by Ruth Ware, The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Also, The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley is on my TBR. So I guess I'm going to read that one. Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. That's another one. An Unwanted Guest by 𝒍𝒊𝒏𝒌𝒔. I did have that book and I ended up getting rid of it, but I kind of do want to read it again. But that's also another locked room mystery. And Then There Were None situation. And now They All Fall Down. So that's like 2, 4, 6, 7. This is like the 7th retelling that I know about. So if you have any And Then There Were None recommendations, let me know in the comment section down below. I might in the future, one day, maybe possibly, when I read And Then There Were None, I will read the original by Agatha Christie, and then I will talk about all of the retellings that I have read and kind of rank them, the ones that I recommend, the ones that I don't, and stuff like that. Okay, so now on to They All Fall Down. Number one, I do love this cover, and I do like the writing. I just did not like the main character lady, and I don't like how in the beginning it's introducing you to all of the characters, but it's not giving you enough characterizations of the character to actually remember them as the story progresses. And it's not until people start getting picked off and the cast becomes smaller and smaller that you really are like, okay, this is who this person is. Did I guess who the killer was? No, because in all of these retellings, they're all a little bit different from what I can tell, and I would be very interested to read the original to see how the original did it, and then see if any of these retellings kind of really followed you know, the plot of the story, like the whodunit aspect of the story. I felt like nothing was happening. It wasn't until like the one big twist that I talked about, well, it wasn't really a big twist. The one reveal like near the beginning, it was like around page 60. Okay, 60 pages I read of this novel just to find out that she wasn't going to the island for this reality show. I almost think that would have been a better novel, but no, she wasn't going to the island for a reality show. She was being called there for another purpose. And that was like, oh, okay, because I didn't read the synopsis, which was good going in. And then it wasn't until like later on that I actually did read the synopsis, and then I shared the synopsis with you because I was like, it really doesn't spoil anything. I think it's pretty well known that this is And Then There Were None retelling. So I read the synopsis at that point, and it just, because nothing was happening. Like, yes, people were dying, but even the author says in the author's note at the end, or the acknowledgements, she says, I wanted to see what would happen if I took 7 Americans to an island and revealed their secrets and had them pay the ultimate price for that. Cruel, yes, but it's entertainment. I wasn't really entertained, unfortunately. I mean, I flew through this very, very quickly, so that's good. But overall, I was just kind of bored, you know, and were the reveals or the secrets that the people that were summoned to the island, like as they were revealed, was that good? No, not really. I did like the inclusion of text messages, emails, and little like news articles and stuff like that. I just wish it would have been darker. I wish there were more high stakes. I wish they were trying to figure things out more. And that just didn't happen in this one. So I'm going to rate They All Fall Down 2 stars, unfortunately. But that's okay, because I have one other book to go in this author taste test, and I'm hoping that brings me back around. So next up is Now She's Gone, and I am going to go ahead and read the full synopsis with you right now, because it didn't really spoil anything for me in the other book, so fingers crossed that it doesn't do that now. Okay, Isabel Lincoln is gone, but is she missing? It's up to Grace and Skies to find her, although Gray is reluctant to track down a woman who may not want to be found. Gray's search for Isabel Lincoln becomes more complicated and dangerous with every new revelation about the woman's secrets and the truth she's hidden from her friends and family. Featuring 2 complicated women in dangerous cat and mouse game, And Now She's Gone explores the nature of secrets and how violence and fear can lead you to abandon everything in order to survive. Okay, that sounds good. No spoilers there. Looking forward to it. All right, so I'm going to jump into this one. I'll start reading, and then once I have some brief thoughts, I will check in and let you know how it's going. Friends, I want to do a quick update of And Now She's Gone. First of all, like I mentioned in the last one, this author really likes to put in, I don't know, like commentary, microaggressions, themes and topics about Black culture, the Black experience. Gray held up the intake form. On here you describe Isabel as being white. I'm looking at her and I'm not seeing that, which means that other people won't see that either. She's biracial. She prefers to check that box instead of the other box. The other box? Ian waved his hand. I don't see color. She's human to me. Graves' nerves jangle, and she was almost certain that her eyes had crossed. He cocked an eyebrow. What? Gray jammed her lips together. Isn't I? We're post-racial, and really, do you act this way with all of your clients? Like, as you can see, like, what? And then the next one is, if you don't solve this thing by 4, she's still talking to Ian, and she's about to leave, but he says, if you don't solve this thing by 4 today, I'll meet you at Iz's place at 5. She told me about CP time, so not 5:10 or 5:15. 5 sharp. Don't be late, please. The nerves beneath Gray's skin crackled. Isabel Lincoln had the nerve to discuss colored people time with Ian O'Donnell, and then he dared to utter that shit. I just think it's so funny, the character's humor, and I really think it's the author's humor. But anyway, yeah, so that's the story. She's going to be looking for this character and the dog, and she's going to be dealing with this asshole, and we're going to see where it goes from there. I mean, doesn't sound like a good guy. So maybe she ran away because he was an asshole. I made it to chapter 11, page 68. I ended up taking an afternoon nap. After all, like I said, I just slept really weird last night. I was having weird dreams. I woke up at like 4 a.m. So I was just really tired, considering I went to bed after 12. So I only had like 4 hours of sleep. So got a little nap in, and I'm ready to dive into this one. Initially, writing is good. Characters seem okay. I don't particularly like any. It's funny because the main character in the last book took Valium, and this character also takes medication, like pills and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if that's going to be a theme in this author's books. I forget what medication she's taking, but it also seems like she had like a recent surgery of some kind. So I kind of forget that. But also, I think there was text messages in here as well and stuff like that. But it is getting a little interesting. I'm wondering what's going to happen with the missing person as this PI kind of does some more investigation. The husband, Ian, remains a dick. But yeah, I got my coffee all heated up, and I'm gonna sit over there and read now. Couple of things. Remember I was talking about the pills. She recently had a surgery. Yeah, there it is. So like she had an appendix surgery basically. So that's why she's taking the medication that she's taking. And there's also this other, okay, so you have the main storyline going, and there are kind of a lot of characters. You're mainly following Gray as she's looking for Isabel, but you have the company that Grayson works for, like the boss, and then the other PIs that are also Grayson's friends. You also have the people that Gray is interviewing about Isabel, her co-workers, her husband. There was like the neighbor and the neighbor's son and all of that. And then they went out to like a bar or something like that. No, it was like a Mexican restaurant, and they were talking about Hank the bartender. So there's just a lot of characters going on, but not many of them seem to be important to the plot right at this moment. But that is the main storyline. Grayson is searching for Isabel. She thinks she's alive, but she still needs proof of life. So she recently talked to her friend Taya and told her, I need these things, and if you can get me those things, then I'll be done. Okay, then there are these other chapters, like this, where it says 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and it's talking about these other people, Miss Dixon, and Sean, things like that. So trigger for domestic abuse, but I'm not sure who these people are or how they tie into the story, or if it's our main character, you know. Yes, I just got confirmation that those other in-between chapters are our main character, Grayson. Yeah, I thought it was pretty obvious, but it was confirmed on page 109. It says, no one had seen Gray without her face in 8 years, not since her name was Natalie Dixon. I made it to chapter 36, page 230 last night, and yeah, I'm still really enjoying this. There's many more layers to this story than there was the previous story, and there's just so many like theories happening, you know, as different like like scenarios come up as different people chime in, and you know, she interviews different people, she finds new information. I just keep going back and forth. Is he guilty? Is he not guilty? Is she alive? Is she not alive? Where is she? Why are all of these weird things happening? What does this have to do with that? And so forth. Okay, so I finished And Now She's Gone by Rachel Howzell Hall, and I have some thoughts. I am generously rating it 3 out of 5 stars. I rated this one 2. I'm rating this one 3 because I did enjoy it a little bit better, but it definitely has some problems. You kind of have 2 main plots being told in this one. You have the storyline of Grayson, who has gotten her first, she's been assigned her first missing persons case. So she goes to this cardiologist, Ian O'Donnell, and talks to him, interviewing him, like trying to get the lowdown. And his girlfriend is missing, and she took the dog. But it doesn't seem like she disappeared without a trace. She actually like left him a message that said like, I'm out of here or whatever like that. But basically, Gray needs to get proof of life and get the dog back for Ian. And it seems like he definitely does care more about the dog than he does her. Then you kind of have, so that's what she's doing. She's tracking down Isabel, trying to get proof of life and to get the dog back to Ian. Then in this secondary past timeline, you're learning more about Grayson as a character, her past, what brought her to this point, and all of that. And that portion is heavily focused on domestic abuse, and it does go into detail, and it did make me cry as someone that has been in that situation. Yeah, it was just really sad, and it did pull at my heartstrings, especially after like repeatedly hearing detailed stories. But so just like beware when you read those past timelines. But it is mainly in these, you can tell, it will say, you know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 17 years ago, all of that. And then it has like that little title or whatever. But that storyline starts bleeding over into the other storyline, and it just, there's so much. There's so many characters, there's so many names, there's so many metaphors. The dialogue is like unrealistic, and the plot just takes forever to like get there. And I also noticed that in this book. I also talked about how that both of the main characters are like taking pills and stuff like that. Basically, Gray had appendicitis, and so she had the surgery, like an emergency surgery to fix that. And she complains about it like so much, about like how much her stomach hurts and how she has to take like these pills to like help her with the pain and all that. And I'm thinking, shouldn't you just go to a doctor? Like maybe something's wrong. Like at one point she says, it feels like something's still inside me, like he left something behind. And I'm like, well then go check. Like I would be freaking out. And she drinks vodka and all these things just to dull the pain. And I'm like, you need to go to the doctor. But not only was that in there and talked about a lot, but it had nothing to do. That plot line went nowhere other than it just being something about the character that she was self-conscious about because she had a scar because of it. But I mean, it had nothing to do with like the missing person. It had nothing to do with the domestic abuse. And I'm thinking, that's a natural thing. You had appendicitis. That was like a medical, you know, scar on you. Whereas you're talking about all this domestic abuse stuff, and that was like way worse. And you're talking about all the makeup you had to use to cover up the marks and the bruises and all of that. I'm thinking that's much worse than this appendicitis scar. But anyway, I digress. But I think that just the background of her character, like because of the domestic abuse, she had to basically get out of that situation and change her name and build a new life for herself. So not only do you have like her old life with her old friends and her husband and all of that, but then you have her new life with all of her work friends and the guy that runs the company that she works for and the people that she's interviewing about the Isabel case. There's just so many things going on. one. But yeah, it was overwhelming to say the least, because like I said, it felt like 2 books in 1 book. But the big question is, will I read from this author again? And the answer is maybe. I need to do a little bit more research, and I think that both of her synopsises aren't like typical like thriller synopsis where you read it and you're like spoiled for the whole book. I definitely do not think that is the case in here, so bravo for that. But I need to do more research and read the synopsis of her stories and see, do any of them interest me, which ones interest me, and kind of go from there. So success, yes, because I read 2 novels by a Black author, and that was one of my goals. My other goal was to read from an author that I've never read from before, so I'm really happy about that. But let me know what you think of this author, if you have read them before, which books you recommend, which ones you don't, if you've read this author before, if you're interested in this author, all of the things down in the comment section down below. But that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye guys.